It began like any other trip, a one-way ticket, a restless heart, and a map of islands scattered like emeralds across a sapphire sea. But what I didn't expect was a fall in love, not just with a person, but with a place, and the soul of a people whose warmth defies distance and time. In the Philippines, love feels different. It's not loud or hurried. It's in the laughter that echoes through jeepneys, the quiet patience of families waiting out the rain, and the eyes of someone who looks at you not as a foreigner, but as if you finally come home. This is not just a story about romance. It's a reflection on what it means to connect across oceans, languages, and lives. Because sometimes, when we go searching for paradise, we don't find it in palm trees or sunsets, but in someone's heart. What do you think? Could love like this still happen in our modern, disconnected world? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you. If stories like this fascinate you, make sure to subscribe and join us as we uncover more of the world's hidden connections. And tell us, where you're watching from. It started with humidity and sunlight, the kind that clings to your skin and shimmers over everything. The glass towers of Makati, the restless traffic of Manila, the laughter spilling from street corners. I remember stepping out of Ninoy Aquino International Airport and feeling something I couldn't name. Maybe it was the chaos. Maybe it was the kindness that cuts through it. For most travelers, the Philippines is an escape. White beaches, turquoise water, cheap beer. But beneath that postcard beauty lies a heartbeat that is deeply human. Here, time moves differently. Strangers call you sir or ma'am. Vendors smile even when the sun scorches. And everywhere you go, someone offers to help. Not because they want something, but because helping is part of who they are. That first week, I got lost a lot. In crowded markets, in jeepneys that zigzagged through streets without maps, in conversations that began with small talk and ended in laughter. But one evening, in a small coastal town 2 hours from Cebu, everything changed. The sun was melting into the horizon, and the sky looked like it was on fire. That's when I saw her. She wasn't posing for anyone, wasn't trying to be noticed, just sitting by the water, sketching in the fading light. There was something about that quiet, in a world so loud, that made me stop. And in that stillness, I realized some journeys don't take you to new places. They take you to people. Her name was Alina. She spoke softly, the kind of voice that made you listen rather than just hear. I asked what she was drawing, and she smiled shyly before turning her sketchbook toward me, a pencil outline of the shoreline, the boats, the children playing in the water. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive. That night, she showed me around her town, the tiny eateries lit by fluorescent bulbs, the smell of grilled fish, the sound of karaoke echoing through the humid night air. Everyone seemed to know her. "That's Alina," one man said, grinning. "The girl who paints the sea." In her world, life was simple but full. She worked at a small cafe in the mornings and painted in the afternoons, selling her art to tourists who often never knew her name. Yet, she spoke of her dreams, of someday holding an exhibition, of showing the world how she saw her islands, her people, her sky. The days that followed blurred into something that felt like belonging. We watched storms roll in and sunlight return. We spoke about everything, and sometimes nothing at all. But love, as I learned, isn't always a lightning strike. Sometimes it's a slow tide, rising quietly until you realize you're surrounded by it. And though I didn't know it then, my journey to the Philippines was no longer about discovery. It was about surrender, because love, like the sea, doesn't ask permission to pull you in. The more time I spent with Alina, the more I began to see the Philippines through her eyes, not as a destination, but as a rhythm. Mornings began with roosters crowing and tricycle engines sputtering to life. The air smelled of coffee mixed with sea salt. Life moved with both chaos and grace, like an orchestra without a conductor. Yet somehow, every note made sense. She taught me that the true heart of the islands wasn't found in the grand resorts or the cities that glittered at night. It lived in the barangays, the small communities where doors stayed open, where neighbors shared rice and stories, and where laughter echoed even in hardship. One afternoon, we took a boat to a nearby island, a place so quiet it felt untouched. The water was glass, reflecting clouds like mirrors. As we drifted, Alina told me about Bayanihan, The Filipino spirit of communal unity, of helping without expecting anything in return. Here, she said, we survived together or not at all. It wasn't just words. I saw it everywhere. Fishermen pulling in nets side by side, families rebuilding homes after storms, strangers offering rides on flooded roads. It was a culture of shared struggle and shared joy. And in that way, Alina wasn't just one person. She was an echo of her country, resilient, gentle, endlessly giving. I came looking for a story to film, but what I found was a feeling that couldn't fit inside a camera frame. Because in the Philippines, life isn't measured in what you own, but in how deeply you love. But paradise, I learned, isn't always peaceful. Beneath the beauty lay the quiet realities of island life, the long hours, the unpredictability of storms, the distance between dreams and survival. Alina worked harder than anyone I'd met. Some mornings she'd wake before dawn to prepare food for her family, then rush to the cafe where the same tourist she served barely looked her in the eye. Yet she never complained. She laughed. She sang. She carried hope as naturally as breathing. I began to notice the contrast everywhere. The luxury hotels built just miles from communities still rebuilding from typhoons. The call centers full of young Filipinos speaking perfect English to people oceans away, while earning a fraction of what their voices were worth. The world loved the Philippines for its smiles, but rarely understood the weight behind them. Alina once told me, "We learn to smile through everything, because if you stop smiling, you start sinking." I didn't know how true that was until I watched her lose one of her paintings to the rain. A week's work, gone in minutes. She looked at it, sighed, and whispered, "It's okay. I'll paint again." That resilience, that refusal to break, was the real magic of this place. The kind of strength that hides in softness. The kind of love that gives even when it is little left to give. And somewhere between shared jeepney rides and nights spent under tin roofs listening to rain, I realized something. I hadn't just fallen for Alina. I had fallen for her world. Its warmth, its ache, its quiet courage. Love in the Philippines isn't about grand gestures. It's in the small things. The way someone saved you the last piece of mango or waits with you when the power goes out. It's a kind of love that endures, not because it's easy, but because it's chosen every single day. Alina and I spent one last evening by the water before I had to leave. The air was thick with that kind of silence that says everything words can't. She gave me a small painting, the same shoreline where we met. "So you'll remember," she said, "not just me, but how this place made you feel." In that moment, I understood that love, at its purest, doesn't ask to be owned. It asks to be remembered. It's not about holding on. It's about being grateful you met it all. When I boarded the plane the next morning, I didn't feel like I was leaving a country. I felt like I was leaving a piece of myself behind. The part that had finally learned what it means to love without expecting anything in return. Months passed, yet the memory of those islands lingered. The rhythm of the waves, the laughter in the rain, and the way Alina's world seemed to glow even in hardship. I realized her lesson wasn't about romance alone. It was about perspective, about finding beauty in what endures, not what dazzles. Back home, surrounded by the noise of modern life, schedules, deadlines, digital affection, everything felt strangely hollow. In the Philippines, I had learned that connection doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. To look someone in the eye, to listen, to care. Those are the quiet acts that make life extraordinary. Love, I discovered, is not a postcard memory or a fairy tale ending. It's a mirror showing us who we become when we open our hearts. And sometimes, the people we meet for only a season leave the deepest imprint. Because some loves aren't meant to last forever. They're meant to change you, to remind you that somewhere across the sea, there's a small island where kindness still feels like sunlight. In the end, I didn't return to the Philippines to find love again, but to remember it, not as a story of two people, but as a lesson about humanity itself. That even in a world moving faster than ever, there are still places and hearts that live slowly, gently, beautifully. Stories like this remind us that the world's borders may divide us, but its emotions do not. Love, kindness, resilience, they belong to everyone. And maybe that's the real treasure of travel. discovering that no matter how far we go, we're all searching for the same warmth,